Hello and welcome to my video essay on the topic of emotion in video games. My name is Joseph and welcome. In this video essay I will be talking over a few points on emotion in video games and more specifically happiness in video games. In this essay I am going to cover over two main points and justify them with primary research, which being a Google form I put out. In this essay I will also be using secondary research, mainly being websites that I found on the topics that I'm going to cover. After I've gone through my points, I will compare and criticise the research and then conclude the essay. I'll also link the references at the end so you can read them as well. The statements are: I believe music in games affects people's happiness, and colours in games affect a person's happiness in games. I believe music in games affects people's happiness. When creating a game, the main goal is to give the player a full and immersive experience so the player believes the story and gets into the minds of the characters. All aspects of a game are trying to increase the player's immersion and to give the desired effect on the player. And in my opinion, the main tool that games use to add to immersion is the music. Sound increases the atmosphere of a game and can change the player's feeling in seconds with just a simple change. Music can be used to entice any emotion, with calm serene music be able to calm the player, whereas fast-paced music and heavy music can be used to make the player frantic and stressed. Music as a tool can be used in combination to affect the player. Let's say a game is wanting to make a player happy. The game may use intense music during a scene to make the player on edge, and then when the game switches to the music, it will give the player a feeling of relief, hence making them happier, which gives them a more rewarding experience. To back up my opinion, an article on 9 health benefits of music, they listed off the fact that music can help lift mood and increase the brain's dopamine levels, leading to a reduction in bad moods and depression. And in an article on how games influence the players, they stated that the main use of music in a game is to set the pace and sit the player into the environment. In the article they also linked to a study that identified that background music is used to immerse the player into a state of focus. In a different article on Healthline about the topic of music and how it affects mood, they said that a study determined that music could improve someone's mood and boost their happiness in less than 2 weeks, with the participants being told to improve their mood, which only happened from listening to upbeat music. For the primary research, I put a question on my Google form asking the question: does music affect happiness during gameplay? If so, why? Out of the 7 responses I got, only one answer said that music did not affect them in making games, making it the odd one out in the answers. The rest of the answers said that music did affect their mood, with 3 answers saying that upbeat bouncy music made them happy. One answer said that music really helped set the tone, which matches with my secondary research. This to me shows that music is important, as only one person said that it did not affect them in either a good way nor a bad way. Also in the answers someone brought up a soundtrack from a specific game, Loco Roco, which is a game that wants to make the player have a good time. In games, colour is a very strong tool, not only for shaping the mentality of its players, but it's also useful for all different aspects of gameplay. All colours have different uses in games, whether it being red to represent blood, or in health bars, or danger yellow for drawing the player's attention, or blue for stimulating. In colour theory there are 2 main types of colours, them being warm and cold colours. In colour theory, warm colours tend to excite and stimulate a person, whereas cold colours are used to calm a person. In games, cold colours can be used in places that represent calmness or rest, and in some cases can be used to induce feelings of isolation, whereas warm colours may be used to get the player's attention and excite them. Bright colours have a better effect on players' happiness in games than dark or dull colours. To back up this statement, In an article on the psychology behind colours in video games design by Untamed Science, they wrote 3 points on how colours are used in the video game industry. The first and most important point they brought up was that colour can be used to affect the emotion in the same way as music and sounds, with the article saying that gritty, realistic games will opt for colour palettes that reflect the atmosphere that the game is going for. Meanwhile, more upbeat games like Mario Odyssey and casino games will opt for simple, bright colours. Another piece of research to back up my point, in an article on colour theory in games on DVNC Tech, they listed colour as a tool used to immerse the player and enhance emotion. For the primary research, I put out a Google survey asking many questions about happiness in video games. I asked people what type of visuals made them happy in games, and out of the 8 responses, 50% of the responses mentioned bright colours as the type of visual that made them happy during games. The second most common answer from the question was scenery and landscape being the type of visual that best got them happy during games, with that being the response 3 out of 8 times. To me, this signifies the importance of colours in games, as without the colours, all a player has is the music and monotone visuals, which does not help immerse the player or give the player hope. It also backs up my point that out of all types of visuals in a game, like the UI, environment and character design, colour was chosen the most. Also, for the primary research, I found some images from games which aim to make the player happy or have a relaxing, calming time. As you can see in image 1, Slime Rancher, the game is very bright, consisting of many blues, pinks and yellows, whereas in the second image from the game Wandersong, you can see a very simple palette of bright primary colours to make the player happy and focus on the game's story. Overall, I'm happy with the level of research I've done, but I think I backed up my points well, and all the sources I used are either knowledgeable on the topic or were researched from sources. The questions I asked were relevant to the topic, and the responses were helpful in the essay and the research. The secondary research all pertained to the topic at hand and were all well written using research done by professionals in the industry. The areas of primary research I could improve on are making better questions that reflect on my topic better, as this time there were a few that were helpful, as the questions I could have asked would have fleshed out my primary research just a bit more, but others that were not used as they did not pertain to the topic as much as others. The areas of secondary research I could improve will be finding more papers and documents from scholar sources like schools and libraries. I could have also found a larger range of sources, and my sources were all from websites, which reduces the accuracy of my points and research. The results from my primary research and secondary research match well, as they are pretty close to the same thing, as the answers of the primary research match up to the ideas brought up by the websites. They did differ, as the websites were more fleshed out and expansive on the topics, as the answers from the primary research were quite small and shallow. With all that concluded, here are the websites I used for my primary research, and thanks for listening.